Okay, now let's go through and finish up our game loop. So to finish this up, we're going to have a condition, and we're going to look at our count to see if it is greater than 0. So if it is greater than 0, we're going to do a move target and call a function off of that. We'll set that up here in a little bit. Else, I want to go through and start saying, okay, our count is equal to 0 or less than 0, so the game's over. So I want my game over text, and this is a empty text field, so we need to specify text equals a string, and in that string I'm going to say game over plus your score let's put a space in there plus our score. What was that score that you ended up with? Our game over text, we need to make that visible. So let's set that to true. I want to actually show my mouse now. So mouse dot show, not shoot, but show. I want my reset underscore button to be visible. So set that to true. My gun target to stop drag. So we're actually going to stop that. And then when we add an event listener, we want to remove it if we don't need it anymore. So I'm going to say remove event listener. And that is going to be our event. And that is going to be our interframe event for our game loop. And that should be the end of that function. So let's go ahead and come down here and let's delete some lines. So we got the end of our function. That's the end of our game loop. So our next function that we're going to set up is our countdown function. So we can start actually counting down. There is no variables. This isn't going to return anything. So inside here, basically we're going to set up a condition and see if our count is greater than 0.1, because we're going to do this in tenths of a second. I'm going to say my count minus equal 0.1. I'm going to take my count so it is rounded up to that nearest area. I want my count to equal a math dot round, and I'm going to round my count times 10 and then divide that by 10. So basically what it's going to do, this is just going to count down to the nearest tenth of a second, and doing the times 10 and then divide by 10, it's going to basically only give us 2 numbers. It's not going to give us a full string of numbers out there. Okay. Else my count is equal to 0. Now along with this, we're going to go through and start calculating some time. So my minutes is going to equal a math floor. And with that, I'm going to say my count divided by 3600 times 60. And that will take our count and actually give us minutes based off of that. Our seconds is going to equal a math.floor. And with that, I got 1, 2, 3 parentheses to start. So I need my count. Again, divide that by 3600. We're going to times that by 60 minus our minutes, and then times that by 60. That takes care of our seconds. Our milliseconds is going to equal a math.round, and that is going to be my count minus our seconds plus our minutes times 60 times 100. So when you're going through and doing this, make sure you have the proper number of parentheses at the beginning and ending on each one of these. Next, we're going to display these into our text field. So .text equals, and I'm going to format the time. So I'm going to format my minutes. So we're going to call a function called format. Let's do the same thing for our seconds. And that is going to equal a format on our seconds, and also on our milliseconds. It's going to equal a format on the milli. Now that takes care of our countdown. Let's do our function for our format real quick. And we're passing in a number. So I'm just going to specify a number off of this. And that number, we are going to return a string. So the first thing is, if my n, which is the number that we're passing in, is less than 10, I'm going to return zero within quotes plus n. So it's basically saying if we're less than 10 milliseconds. Okay. And then I'm going to return my n dot to string, and let's close up that function. So basically with that, it's just going to take our numbers that are out there and place them in a string format so we can place them into those text fields. So now in the next one, we'll go on and start moving our targets around and checking all the variables for that. So we'll see you in the next video. Thanks.